If anything's for certain, it's that the 21st century has made life a lot easier to live. There's a lot of things that you can do with these smartphones, including banking, house hunting, and even dating. The introduction of the internet brought about OG dating sites such as Match.com and Plenty of Fish. With the smartphone revolution, we saw the wonderful apps such as Tinder, Hitch, and Bumble enter the scene. And that's not even including some of the niche markets like the LGBT or some people's favourites, Muzmatch. There can be no doubt that it's easier than ever to connect with someone that you might like the look of. But is it harder for certain groups than it is for others?
And she didn't like brown people. Didn't know what to do in that situation.
Yeah, you look Gujarati, or yeah, you're very typically Gujarati, your nose looks Gujarati and stuff like that, and I just don't really understand how to take that.
That black people have big swords.
Yeah, I've used dating apps for on and off for the last couple of years. Hinge, Tinder, and another one called Dilmill.
I use Hinge, but I have previously used Tinder as well.
Tinder and Muzmatch.
Currently using Hinge, but in the past I have used Tinder and Bumble.
Saves you a lot of time. Like you don't need to go through the whole introducing and whatnot.
I think they're good for people who sort of don't actively socialise. I know that sounds really sad, but like they don't go out much, or they're unable to find people to meet in certain places. Like they don't go drinking, or they don't go to activities or whatever. So it's nice for them to be able to sort of communicate to other people without having to go out. It's very 21st century.
For those that might be a little bit shyer, you can sort of start up a conversation, get to know someone before you go and meet them, but also mix in with people that are sort of different from your everyday circle or different from you, being able to mix with different cultures, different religions, different ethnicities.
I think a big downside is that it's quite shallow, and it's I think the directness of it is it's too much. There's not enough deepness to it.
And you don't really get to know someone through a dating app very well. Obviously, like you go on a date, like hopefully quite soon after you match someone or whatever, but it's still quite difficult to sort of gauge what the person's like. Like it could be a serial killer for all you know. Do you know what I mean?
Having to judge someone based on a picture, a lot of the time you don't have a lot of information, so it's really like based on someone's looks and appearances, which I don't necessarily feel 100% comfortable with, but you kind of have to go through that using a dating app. I would say I joined dating apps to meet different guys, but to also potentially start a relationship with someone. If that is my ultimate aim, the success rate has been nil bois. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I've used them for like just fun in previous times, and it's been alright. It's just here and there, either win or you don't. But obviously, the older I get, I feel like I'm not as much, because I don't feel like it's the best place to find people.
So like 0%. I was on the app sort of kind of looking for a relationship, and that hasn't happened, so no.
What I wanted from the app, I would say just to be good people. Like you never know who might help you in life or who you might meet in life. So yeah, just to be good people.
Blackprint surveyed 100 people and found that 63% of people admitted to having a preference, but 81% of those people never mentioned or referred to those in their profiles or conversations.
Race does affect success, because it is my preference, really. It is the preference in which I want my partner to be.
I do. I think your race does play a big part in it. You know, just initially off the bat, you're sort of trying to get to know each other, and there's always a question of like, what's your background, where are you from, and you know, having those differences sort of, if you're talking to someone that doesn't necessarily understand it, it's sort of explaining that through. But I do think there's other things that affect dating that as well. Especially from a female's point of view, if you're not Instagram pretty, then you're kind of like a little bit less likely to get a like, So I think your race does play a big part, but I think there's a lot of intersectionality that also has to be taken into consideration as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's on Hinge that you can actually select your preference. So at the start of the app, you sort of put down like your race and where you're from and stuff. And then if you go into your preferences, you can actually pick what race you want to see on your app, which is so horrendous. But I'm sure so many people use it, so yeah, I can imagine it plays a massive part.
Among the black women surveyed, only 13% of them experienced racism on dating apps. However, 2/3 of this group felt that they were less likely to receive matches in comparison to other ethnic groups. Outside our own research, numerous studies have found that black women and Asian men have the most difficult time navigating the online dating space, citing low desirability scores and less matches overall.
You find that people think you're kind of aggressive, or they want to see your sassy side or your diva side, and it's kind of like, I don't know if that's me, but okay, that's obviously what you think. And it does come out, especially if you're going on a date, and a lot of the time you're sort of drinking, and then conversation starts flowing, and I think sometimes people forget the setting and where you are, and then those sort of stereotypes start coming out, and it's kind of like, no, this ain't going anywhere.
For example, one girl I was speaking to, she said that she's going to smoke, and hinted that it wasn't just a regular smoke, and I was like, oh, you do that? And then she goes, yeah, but every black person does that. Why are you surprised? So bad.
I remember going on a date with a guy that was like, oh, so what's your background, like what's your heritage? And I was like, oh, Jamaican. And he was like fully? And I was like, yeah. He was like, oh, so you're not mixed race? I was like, no. And I could just see his face kind of like drop, and I was like, oh, sorry. So yeah, I would say I have been faced with, some difficult encounters.
If there was a dating app for people who are only my race, now I'd definitely use it. My race is my type. Like, I love my race. So yeah, definitely.
There are a few dating apps that are specifically for my race. I do not use them purely because I don't like the idea of sort of being, I don't want to say narrow-minded, but kind of narrow-minded like that. The world is full of like really cool people, and I don't want to just sort of limit myself to a certain type of person just because I'm that kind of person. So
there is, and I do. I use Deal. You can select certain features about people that you want in terms of where their culture and where they're from. It does make things easier in terms of what you're directly looking for, but it does complicate things as well.
I would use it, but I also do think that there's value in having apps that open the pool for those that might be looking for difference or variation in relationships.
Maybe with more niche dating apps hitting the market, we'll see a move away from the traditional mass market apps into smaller pools of dating personnel. Whether that will be a good thing or not, we'll have to wait and see.